Well, it's not a budget that is traditional in the pre-election style, but it is unfortunately a budget that's not going to lift business confidence, nor really improve our competitive position as an economy, because the government doesn't have a lot of money to play with. And we already know from the budget last night that we've got a $19 billion deficit.
We're trying to get through some very worthwhile policies. Disability care is certainly useful and very much needed. The education reforms. But if you're going to have a deficit, you want to have a good deficit. And for me, the only positive out of that budget was $24 billion on infrastructure, which is going to help the economy and is going to help jobs. Otherwise, there's not much good news there for anybody.
I think the initiative the government's proposed is certainly worth piloting because it does go to the core of that financial aspect. So a bit of a tick, need to get through the detail of it a bit more, but I think it's a good starting point.
It's a landmark reform, there's no question, Michael. Getting the disability care funding in place, trying to lock it in for the 10-year period is really important for us all. And equally the education reforms, both the money that they're boosting into the education system and also the better targeting of that funding towards the kids who really need the assistance. And let's not forget dental. It's not got a lot of airtime over the last 24 hours, but that is also locked in terms of the funding for moving us towards a universal dental healthcare system. So the government's done some really important work here, and obviously there's been some work on the savings revenue front that we would support. Our gaping hole was the unemployment payment, and there was no action on that.
What was presented was a pre-election budget that isn't like a pre-election budget, a budget that would be difficult for any government to present after 6 years in office, one where the government's had to admit to some serious failings compared with what they had expected only 12 months ago, many of which are beyond its direct control.
We focus particularly through our contact around the country with over 1 million disadvantaged Australians on those on low incomes. And that's the principal group that we're concerned about, those low income earners who will have a significant cut in this particular mechanism. We're not opposed to the change from baby bonus as such into the family tax benefit arrangement. But the fact is, it is a cut for those families who had been anticipating that they would be receiving a benefit, and together with the fact that the government decided not to go ahead with the promised $600 a year increase for families with more than 2 children in this budget. So a combination of those things and some other measures, particularly affecting single parents, we think put them together, and it is actually quite a hit on vulnerable families.